Good morning, everyone. My name is William Hemsworth, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode on Saturday before Easter. Holy Saturday. Happy Easter to all of you. I'm really excited to have my guest today, Dr. Michael Guillen. He's a world-class scientist and communicator. He holds a PhD from Cornell University in physics, astronomy, and mathematics. He was an award-winning physics instructor at Harvard and the Emmy award-winning science editor for ABC News. He's appeared on Good Morning America, World News Tonight, Nightline 2020. He's a best-selling author of books such as Believing is Seeing and Five Equations That Changed the World. Dr. Guillen, how are you doing this morning?
William, after that introduction, I'm feeling pretty doggone good. Did I do all that?
Man,
it's crazy. When people, it's almost like you're at your own funeral and people are talking kindly about you, except that you're alive. But I got to tell you, brother, I mean, that opening is so beautiful. I have to say, my Catholic brothers and sisters, they know how to build churches. It's just beautiful. What a nice way to start a Saturday morning. So good morning to you. Really looking forward to our discussion. Thank you, William.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going over your bio with my wife, and I'm like, man, this guy's like done everything. He's lived like 10 lifetimes, it seems like. So I'm excited to talk to him.
And I just celebrated my 26th birthday. Imagine that,
Happy birthday. All right.
And if you believe that, I have got some swampland to sell you in Florida.
All right. No, Dr. Guillen, we're going to talk about your documentary that you have coming out. But before you do, I'd be remiss after watching some of your previous interviews if I didn't ask you to give us some background about your story and how you came to Christ, if you would.
Yes, I'd be happy to, William. I'll condense decades of my life into just a couple of minutes. It began, I was born in East Los Angeles. I fell in love with science in the second grade. And I thought, any self-respecting would-be scientist should live by very strict mottos. And so 3 of my mottos were, number 1, seeing is believing. If I can't see it, I'm not going to believe it. Prove it. If you can't prove something to me, I'm not going to believe it. And I also had such confidence in science. Really, science was my God. Science was my everything, even at that age. I was a very peculiar child. I'm amazed my parents didn't just disown me. But anyway, they didn't. God bless them. And I thought that I had so much confidence in science that I thought science could answer all my questions. And it really wasn't until I got to Cornell many years later that I discovered how wrong I was on all 3 counts. And, we can get into how I discovered that. But that in a nutshell, really, I think when I had that awakening at Cornell, I became a different person. I realized science was not going to answer all my questions, and I had to look elsewhere. And so I embarked on this, what I call Hermann Hesse-like journey, because Hermann Hesse was a Nobel Prize-winning German novelist, and he wrote books about tormented intellectuals and, who go off on journeys in search of answers to their deep questions. And I thought, well, that's me. I'm a tormented intellectual in search of answers to my deep questions. That science just is not answering to my satisfaction. And so I explored Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam and Judaism and transcendental meditation. And then one day, and this is kind of the capstone of my story. One day at Cornell, I'm a grad student, some co-ed gave me a Valentine's Day card out of nowhere and challenged me to read the Bible. She said, she was a lapsed Catholic from New York, from Long Island. And she says, it seemed like you're studying all these other religions, Hinduism and all this. She says, have you ever read the Bible? And I said, no, for 2 reasons. I said, number 1, I grew up hearing about the Bible. And the old expression, familiarity breeds contempt. I just thought there was nothing there for me, even though I had never cracked open the Bible, even though I had never read the Bible. I just had this impression that it was just too familiar to be important to me. And number 2, I said, I'm not interested in reading the Bible because I have the impression that people who read the Bible hate science. And that's my number 1 love in life. So why would I want to do that? Then she said the magic words, William, that changed my life. And she said, well, I have not read the Bible either, but if you read it, I will read it with you. Now,
Ah,
Picture this. I'm this kind of nerdy, I mean, nerd out scientific geek, and she's this pretty sorority girl from Kappa Kappa Gamma, and she's inviting me to read the Bible with her. And I didn't care about the Bible, but I cared about spending more time with this pretty girl. So I said, sure, I'm in, and it ended up taking 2 years for us to read it because we're both such intellectuals. And we like, doesn't this contradict what we read like 2 days ago? And at one point I said, Laurel, I ended up marrying her, by the way. We've been married for 34 years. She's amazing. God used her
fantastic.
in a mighty way. She's still my partner in life, and just, I can't say enough about her. But I said to her, Laurel, at this rate, we're never going to get through this book. I said, so we got a spiral notebook, and we started writing our questions and complaints and concerns down, and took us 2 years. And it wasn't as if at the end of the 2 years, William, I fell on my knees and became a Christian. It wasn't until I was really in my 40s, about 2 decades later, that I had certain experiences, personal experiences, and I had by then explored Christianity more deeply. And it was clear to me that of all the religions I had ever studied, and I say this without any disrespect for any other religion, but the truth of it is, I thought, Christianity resonates most of all with my beloved science. And to this day, that's still the case. The two go beautifully together. They don't just get along, they resonate with one another. And again, we can get into that. But that's my short story. I mean, that's my life in a nutshell. What, like in 3 minutes or less, there's my life.
Well, thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
that relationship between science and faith, so many times, and I'm sure you've heard this as well, and you just said it, that they contradict each other. Can you share how they go hand in hand with each other?
How many hours do we have? um,
I know it's a loaded question.
no, it's a good question. It's a legitimate question. I wrote a book actually called Amazing Truths: How Science and the Bible Agree. So if somebody's really interested into a deep dive answer to your beautiful question, they should get a copy of the book, Amazing Truths. So where do I start? I mean, they resonate in so many different ways. But I think one of the most profound ones has to do with the origins of the universe. If you ask like a childlike question, you teach middle school, you were telling me. So this would be a question that a middle schooler would ask. Hey, Mr. Helmsworth, how did the universe begin? Well, how do you answer that? If you had been living in the early 1900s, you would have answered the question, well, the universe didn't have a beginning. The universe we see today is the same that has always existed and that will always exist. That was the prevailing dogma in science. And it was a holdover really from Aristotle 2,000 years earlier, who posited the theory that the universe we see today is immortal. It didn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it really wasn't until about 1929 when Edwin Hubble saw evidence that galaxies were moving away from one another, and the immediate inference was, wow, this is like the aftermath of an explosion. If you look at what shrapnel do after an explosion, shrapnel move away from each other just the way these galaxies are in the universe. And so this immediately bamboozled science because it completely contradicted the dogma they had held firm to for 2,000 plus years. Suddenly, science is faced with the question, well, if the universe indeed had a beginning, if it began at some time in the past in a very high temperature, dense, condensed state, then what caused it to blow up? What triggered the what we now call the Big Bang? And do you know that here we are like 100 years later, and the honest answer is we don't know. There's a lot of speculation, and of course there's the Big Bang Theory. There are various versions or flavors of the Big Bang Theory. The inflationary Big Bang Theory right now is one of the preferred flavors. But we still, in science, when I'm speaking now as a scientist, as a cosmologist, cosmology is one of my specialties, which is the study of the origins of the universe. We can't say with any certainty whatsoever what triggered it, what triggered the beginning of the universe. Now, the reason that's an answer to your question is because the Bible has given us the answer all along. God created the heavens and the earth. So from the very beginning, the Bible has offered us the theory or the claim that the universe did have a beginning and it was divine. And for a long time, that was at odds with the scientific dogma, right? But all of a sudden, in the 1920s, going into the 1940s, when the Big Bang Theory and the phrase itself was coined by Fred Hoyle, who I actually got to know at Cornell, now is just completely in sync with the Bible. And this is just one illustration of something I'd like to explain to you and your viewers, and that is, if you think of the Bible and what it claims to be true as kind of a mountain, it doesn't move. The Bible, has not changed its tune. It's not changed its claims at all. It's there, etched in granite, right?
Yeah.
Science, on the other hand, is like a river. It kind of meanders. It believes this for a little while, then it discovers we're wrong. Let's do a little mid-course correction. So it veers to the right, then it veers to the left, and it's like a river, not like a mountain. And so the question you might ask yourself, and really the question you asked me about how science and the Bible resonate, you might expect that as this river of science progresses, it's kind of meandering away from this mountain, because this mountain is just so ancient. It's like old and outdated and maybe even obsolete. So why would science, which keeps reinventing itself with new information and new evidence, you would expect that the river of science would meander away from the mountain? Well, the headline is it isn't. In fact, the river of science is meandering exactly towards the mountain, by which I mean that everything we are discovering about the universe, about ourselves, about our place in the universe, is becoming more consistent with the Bible, not less consistent. That's a shocker. That shocked me when I was, 20-something, genuinely 20-something, and that's really ultimately what caused me to become a Christian. And when I say a Christian, I'm a non-denominational Christian. I know there are Catholics, Protestants, people love to make the distinction. I don't make distinctions. I'm a follower of Jesus. When I've read the Bible and I've studied the Bible, I believe the Bible is reliable. I believe the truths of the Bible are highly consistent with the great truths of science. They resonate with one another. So I'm a follower of Jesus. So when I say I decided in my 40s that if I was to decide how I wanted to live my life, then I decided that I would live by the laws of science, but I would also live by the laws of the Bible. And I believe in the truths of the Bible, and there's no great contradiction between the great truths of the Bible and the great truths of modern science. And I've just given you one. I mean, I could give you many, many more. As I say, I wrote an entire book on it. And I think I have like 10 great truths, maybe even more, that resonate both biblically and scientifically.
Now, you've produced a documentary, The Invisible Everywhere, which releases on April 8th, and the trailer is on Vimeo and it's linked in the show notes for those that want to check it out. Now, what brought this documentary on?
About 6 years ago, I was touring the college campuses with Dr. Rice Brooks, who's the author of God's Not Dead. And I think we were at Michigan State University. And he said to me that morning before we were going to speak that night, he said, I've shared the stage with you now long enough. I've never heard anyone speak about faith, the subject and the concept of faith, the way you do, from a very scientific point of view. It's very fresh. And he's been doing this for 40 years. So when he said that to me, that was significant, right? And I said to him, well, I'm working on a novel, Rice. Because he said, you should write a book about it. I said, I'm working on a novel. I'm not interested. But then my wife piled on, and then my literary agent piled on, and next thing I know, okay, I surrender. Stop pestering me. As soon as I'm done with the novel, I will write the book. And that was the book you mentioned, Believing is Seen. And the subtitle, I think, says it all. The subtitle, it's rather long, but I guess this is what publishers like. It's a physicist explains how science shattered his atheism and revealed the necessity of faith. In other words, faith is unavoidable. So even atheists have faith. You know, when somebody asks you, are you a person of faith? The answer is automatically yes. We're all persons of faith. We just have faith in different things. And so the book became an instant bestseller. That was like 4.5 years ago. And whenever I would speak, I'd have a lot of people, especially parents, come up to me and said, you know, read your book, Dr. G, changed my life, answered a lot of questions for me. Some of them were believers to start with. Some of them were not. Some of them were seekers. Some of them were haters, hateful atheists who just are so angry if you believe in God. Even they would said, you changed my life. I'm no longer an atheist. And I'm like, but these parents would say, but, I don't think my kid is going to read the book. Maybe the kid is in high school, maybe in college. And they would say to me, would you consider making a movie out of this? And I stored it away. I had other things to do. But about 2 years ago, I wrote the script. And in the last year, I ended up making the movie. And so the movie is inspired by the book. And it basically chronicles my journey from atheism and shows the viewers, just doesn't preach, just shows what is it that turned me into a believer? What in science, what exactly in science changed me from an atheist to believing in God? In other words, what is it about science that shattered my atheism and opened my eyes to the existence of God? That's what the movie is in a nutshell. So it's for everybody, whether you believe or don't believe. It offers up my story, my personal story, together with the latest science. So it's quite a treat. And visually, I use the latest AI to create the visuals because I'm trying to make the invisible universe beyond us and within us visible. How do you do that? It takes a lot of special effects. And I don't have $100 million to create the special effects. So I use the latest AI. And I'm told, William, by my friends in Hollywood, because I've made a movie before the traditional way. It's now on Amazon Prime and Apple TV, and it's distributed by Lionsgate. So I know that whole way of doing things. This is very different. And my friends in Hollywood say, you're the first guy ever to make a movie by yourself on your desktop computer using AI tools. And I said, really? And they said, yeah. And so then I went to the chat box. I went to ChatGPT, I went to Gemini, and I went to Grok. And I said, is it true? I've just finished making a full-length motion picture, 1 hour and 20 minutes, using AI tools on my desktop by myself. Is it true that nobody else has done this before? Is it possible? And they said, yeah, you're the guy. So wow. That's like I didn't mean to, William, and that wasn't my motivation. My motivation was just to tell my story, but I just think it's a kick. And I'm telling you, visually, the movie is stunning. So if nothing else, I'm hoping that people who watch the movie, whoever they are, wherever they are, whatever they believe, whatever they don't believe, will come away with at least a greater appreciation for the deeply mysterious and mostly invisible universe that we inhabit, and the mostly invisible, deeply mysterious universe that inhabits us. That's my minimal expectation. There's no preaching here. I'm not trying to convert you into believing anything. I'm just simply telling you my story in a visually and musically, by the way, the music is unbelievable, in a musically stunning way. You will not be the same person after you've seen this movie. I guarantee you. And I can say that because a few people have seen the movie. I've allowed them to see it ahead of time. And they're just blown away. That's what they tell me. They're just blown away. And these are, intelligent people of all stripes, not just believers. So anyway.
Yeah. Can you share some of that feedback with us that you've received so far? I mean, I've read some of those reviews in the in the press release. Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have them in front of me word for word, but for example, a major radio host, I don't want his name, I don't want to name his name, uh, watched it. I guess it was like in the middle of the day, and I was supposed to appear on his show live that evening, but he called me like in the middle of the day, and then the man was just like, he says, Dr. G, I just watched a movie. He says, it's mind blowing. Every high school kid in the world has to see this movie, and on and on. How can I help you promote this movie? Oh my gosh. And he's going on and on and on. And then, so that's one example. And then Kathy Ross, who is married to Hugh Ross, who were co-founders of the very well-respected organization called Reasons to Believe. They're based in California, have been around forever. And Hugh was at Caltech. He was an astrophysicist, a really smart guy, and he's published many books. I mean, he and Kathy watched the movie, and I mean, I think Kathy used the word transcended. It's she says it was transcended with like triple exclamation marks. And there are others. I would have become more prepared if I'd known you'd ask the question, because I have Laurel, my wife, writing these things down. But I expect that come April 8th, we're going to get many more reactions like that. But the typical reaction is that it's not like, oh, that was nice, Dr. G. Thanks a lot. No, it's like over the top reactions. I mean, it's from people of all ages, men, women, young and old. I mean, they're just raving, and they just insist that everybody in the world has to see it. Dr. Brooks, who I just mentioned, I allowed him to see it because, you know, I feel obligated. He's the one who coaxed me into writing the book, which led to the movie. So I let him see it, and oh my gosh, he texted me. He says he had the same reaction. He says he's got churches, I guess, in like 80 countries all over the world. He's the founder of Every Nation, Every Campus, and he's got ministries in 80 nations around the world, and he's promoting it to all 80 nations. I mean, he says, I want everybody to see this movie. And I've also written a companion guide, and he's very interested in that, so that people, when they see it and they want to dive even more deeply into have their own personal journey into what I call the great invisible unknown, then they can get the companion guide. So I'm encouraged. We'll see April 8th. Look, I mean, I feel like I've done my part, William. If you were to ask me, well, did you leave everything on the field? I did. I worked my tail off on this movie. I don't think I've ever worked so hard on anything since my thesis at Cornell. And there were times this past summer where I didn't even know if I could continue doing it. It was just grueling putting together a movie of this kind. Laurel would sneak into this is the room I made the movie in, and she would open the door and she said, eat, you're not eating, eat. And, and I told Laurel at one point, I said, oh my gosh, Laurel, I think I'm like reverting back to my scientific monk days at Cornell, where I would work like 21 hours a day in my basement lab and hardly eat and had no social life or anything. And I did. So I have given my best. This is a story. Again, I'm not trying to convert or preach. There's no preaching in this movie whatsoever. This is just about my journey from a kid in East LA to a man then whose eyes were opened by science to the existence of God. And it's a beautiful movie. That's what people keep saying too. I mean, I've been doing a lot of these interviews, and the hosts, the few hosts who've seen it, have said it's just a beautiful movie, and it's got lots to make you think about. I think this, William, that some people will lead with their heart. They're very emotional. Other people will lead with their minds. They're more intellectual. We guys especially tend to be very mind driven. We lead with our minds, and this movie will feed you both. It will feed you emotionally. There are scenes in the movie that make me cry, where the music and the visuals are just so beautiful, and yet there are scenes in the movie that present some modern physics that really make you think, scratch your head. So I feel like whatever happens come April 8th, I'm expecting that it will be very well received around the world. And the reason I'm releasing the movie not in theaters like I did with my previous movie, Little Red Wagon, I decided because I have followers all over the world: Hungary, Thailand, South Africa, Africa, Australia, Great Britain, France, Morocco. Just they're everywhere. And they were all asking me, Dr. G, where can I see the movie? Where can I see? Well, what am I going to do? Look at your local theater in Bangkok, Thailand? No, it ain't going to happen. So
Right.
just as I made the movie in a very innovative way, we're releasing it in an innovative way, very simple. Come April 8th, you just go to theinvisibleeverywhere.com, boom, theinvisibleeverywhere.com, and you will see an online box office. You can rent it, you can buy it with extras, you can host a screening. I'm thinking we're going to add a fifth column. I was just thinking about this morning, where if somebody wants to pay it forward or gift, buy a ticket for somebody else, then I think we should have that fifth column where you kind of pay it forward or gift it. But in any case, you do that, and then you can watch the movie on your cell phone. You can watch it on your laptop, your computer, on your big TV screen at home. But wherever you are, literally, if you're in Thailand, if you're in Hungary, you're in India, a big following in India. On April 8th, the whole world will be able to enjoy this world premiere of The Invisible Everywhere. I'm really excited about it. So we'll see.
I am as well. Like I said, I've watched the trailer a few times, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known it was just you doing it. I mean, to be honest, I can't imagine how much hard work that was, and you just kind of gave us a glimpse. So,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, to God alone be the glory. I'm old enough now,
Amen.
William, that when I was a young buck and I was trying to make a career for myself, and it was all about me, and I went through that whole thing, especially when I was at ABC News. You can imagine when you're on national TV, it's all about fame and fortune, and I thought I was on top of the world, blah blah blah. Now that I'm older, I just really want to serve the Lord. That's really what gets me up in the morning. I just really like, Lord, you have been more generous to me than I could possibly deserve. I don't deserve this life you've given me. I grew up as this little Mexican kid in East LA, and here I am talking with you live on YouTube. I mean, come on. That's not me. That's God. And so I just feel like in the last decades of my life, I just really want to pay it back. And I want to help young people, especially. This movie, I had young people in mind with this movie. I think they're going to really love it. Because whenever I speak on a college campus, I'm mobbed. I'm mobbed. And they have so many questions. They're seeking, they're thirsty. You must see this in middle school. Kids are just, they want to know, Dr. G, what can I believe in? What is true? You're a scientist. You're a world-class scientist. You're now a professed Christian. You're a follower of Jesus. I'd rather like to say. And so, Dr. G, and then they bombard me with their questions, and I love it. I say the harder the better. Give me the tough questions, and so I think this movie is going to glorify the Lord. That's all I care about, really. Have I done a good job of giving God credit for opening my eyes to his existence through the thing that I love the most in life, which was science? He used the thing I loved the most in life to open my eyes to his existence. And so now when I continue studying the universe, it's almost like a form of worship for me, William, that I'm not just doing science, I'm studying God's creation, and in studying his work, I'm getting to know him better, and I'm growing closer to him. I don't know how else to put it to you. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But I'm a beautiful stage in life right now. I just love where I am in life right now. I feel so close to God, and I just want to love him with everything I have. I want to give him everything I have. Everything that he's given me, I want to give back 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And that's what this movie is all about. It's my homage to what God has done in my life. Anyway,
Beautiful.
I hope that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. Documentary releases April 8th. theinvisibleeverywhere.com is where you can check it out. Dr. G, I thank you again for joining me today. Where can our listeners and viewers learn more about your work, your podcast, your Substack, all that good stuff?
I think the best way, the one hub, is go to michaelguillen.com, or if you in fact go to theinvisibleeverywhere.com, it will point you to Michael Guillen. So you can either go to theinvisibleeverywhere.com or just to michaelguillen.com, and it'll point you to Substack, tweet. I'm on X, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, on and on, YouTube. So that would be it. But William, thank you. Thank you for sharing your Saturday morning with me. I really admire what you do, both in the classroom, behind the scenes, teacher in the middle school, and yet also doing this podcast. You too are serving the Lord so very well. So
Amen.
thank you for your time. God bless you, brother, and God bless your viewers.
God bless you as well. And everyone, check out this documentary. Like Dr. G said, it'll change you. It's great. Dr. G, God bless you. Happy Easter, and thanks again for joining me.
Happy Easter, my brother. Bye-bye now.